right, sweet. So we have Dave Hammertime, our Nashville, I want to say Tampa, but our Nashville Stars GM with us, joining us today. I appreciate you taking the time, Dave. We were chatting a little bit as we were kind of getting set up here, and I tried to save some of the curiosity for when we go live here. So do you mind filling us in a little bit? I know you said that you're kind of in the city mix, looking for some 40 acres. Whereabouts are you in the country?
First off, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. This is a
Yeah,
lot of fun. I've been enjoying all these podcasts you guys been playing. It's been stellar stuff, so keep them coming.
that's awesome.
I'm in West Tennessee in the Memphis area.
Okay.
Me and my wife. I got 2 daughters. It keeps me pretty occupied. I've been in the restaurant industry for nearly 20 years.
Yeah, you're a cook, is that correct?
Yeah, executive chef, restaurant.
Okay.
Now I'm general manager.
Okay. That's great, man.
So
Yeah, I know there's some fine lines in there. I was in the restaurant industry as I was kind of fumbling through what I wanted to do, and I really enjoyed it. And I did some management, and then I got the photography option. But I have such an admiration for, it's a grind of a life, and especially in the back of the house there. But there's such a beauty with, being a chef. And I know there's like I was saying, there's a whole kind of plethora of options back there. So executive chef, can you tell like us ignoramuses what that exactly is compared to, like, say, like a line cook or things like that?
as an executive chef, I'm running the show back there in the kitchen.
Okay.
I'm responsible for hiring. I'm responsible for training, coming up with menu ideas, execution, make sure everyone's on par, and make sure everything comes out perfect.
That's great, man. And have you bounced around the country, or have you stayed in Tennessee? Because I feel like,
I,
I was so
I,
interested
I
in.
was I was in the military when I first got out of high school,
Yeah.
and so I went to 18 different countries. I was actually on the all Army boxing team.
Okay. Nice.
I was a member of the Golden Knights. So I got to travel quite a bit. And then towards the end of the military, I was in for 6 years total. Towards the end, I went all over the US, just traveling around, checking things out. So I've been all the way to San Diego to New York. So
That's
I
great.
just absolutely love it.
Yeah. And what brought you? What kind of landed you guys in Tennessee?
My family's from here.
Okay.
I was originally born here in this
Okay.
area.
Yeah.
And then I
That's
came back. Uh, Hate Memphis. It's the worst, but it is what it is.
Is that where you're close to?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're not too far, but right now, like I said earlier, we're looking for about 40 acres. I'm looking to get out of the restaurant industry. I want to get some land, make it work. I'm looking to raise some cattle, maybe long term some dispensaries.
That'd be great.
So
Well, if
that,
you
that's
need some samples, or you need someone to test your samples, I'd be happy to.
that's the long term goal right now. Even I have the idea of actually raising cattle. You have Wagyu beef. I was thinking cannabis fed grain for the cattle, so that
Okay.
should be pretty pity.
Make them lazy fuckers.
Right,
Um,
take it to the next level.
so so while you would manage a cattle, you had said that your wife, as we were kind of setting up here, is a veterinarian, and
Yeah,
so you have a house full of animals, or right? Is that correct?
we have wild kingdom over here. I have 4 dogs. We have 2 border collies, Australian Shepherd, pit bull. We have 2 African cicada turtles. They're pretty large, and we also have a boa snake that I don't go near. That's all her.
I'd be with you.
And then we started a new hobby here recently. We now have 8 baby chickens since the price of eggs are more than
Yeah,
gold at the moment.
yeah, it's been crazy.
So,
So
so
a couple
that's our
questions
new
on that.
hobby. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
it's great. All right, so the turtles, uh like big enough like a little kid could hop on, or not that big?
They're about 75 pounds each right
Damn.
now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
They'll live to about 80, 90 years old and get,
Yeah.
100 pounds.
You got to will them.
Right. Right.
All right. How about the boa constrictor? How do you keep that away from the chickens?
It's actually in a cage right next to the chickens.
Ah, all right. So you're teasing it.
Right, right. Oh yeah, it was upset when we first got it. It was really wanting to eat. So my wife fed it a rat. Now it's fine.
Right. Oh man. Yeah, I'd be with you. That'd be staying far, far away. That's awesome, man. My wife is obsessed with animals. Actually, it's been a conversation recently where I found a local like sanctuary and I was telling her, you know what, like you should go volunteer for whatever it is, like, a couple hours a week, because it would essentially be like your meditation, just touching the animals, feeding them. She doesn't care. I mean, multiple times a day, she's showing me pictures of any animal, tell me how cute it is, even when they're not. Last night it was baby bats. Look how cute these are, and to me, I get it. Any baby animal is cute, but they look like little hairless moles. They're
Right.
not cute, but so my wife would love to be at your house. um, cool. So Tennessee, hopefully move out to the country and give up the chef life, and kind of take care of the animals to get to the chefs. And I know recently in the past, year or so, you were dealing with some back issues, correct? Like you were going through some heavy stuff. Are you
Yeah,
clear from that?
I've got for the last about 4 years. I went through hell, especially this last year. Last year I had two spinal surgeries. I had in April I had a cervical spinal fusion on my neck on my C5, and then in December of this past December I had anterior lumbar on my L5.
Mm. Oh, and is there a root cause? And I know you and I were chatting a little bit through some of the other league slacks, and I apologize for not remembering, but is
Oh,
it
you're good.
boxing? Is it car
Yeah,
accidents?
life. I've always, to be honest, I'm a pretty tough SOB. I've always hit the ground, get hit hard, got knocked down, and I just bounced back and just kept going. I never really fully took care of myself like I should.
Yeah,
You know, life, boxing. I also jumped out of planes for a while.
that will do it.
So at the time, I was a boxer. I was 6 foot. I boxed 135 pounds. I was a skinny guy.
Yeah,
So when I jumped out of planes, I'm jumping out of planes with 120 pounds of equipment on my body as well. So
yeah.
it took a wear and tear over the time. And finally got to the point where I knew I had a serious problem. Like I said, the past 4 years have been really rough. I've had to switch jobs a couple of times because I was getting screwed over on insurance. Restaurant industry is a tough business.
Yeah, it is.
Dog eat dog. It's it's rough. So,
There's not
but
much loyalty to it.
there's absolutely no loyalty to it.
Yeah.
You're only as good as you are as the current moment.
Yeah. So with some of those like back and neck and like general health issues, was it something that you knew was coming and like the doctor was saying, hey, we have to take care of this, or was it more of like an acute issue that you had to deal with,
Well,
immediately?
I knew in December of 2019 that I needed a fusion, but I decided to go with the discectomy portion of it because I was changing jobs and they wanted me to go training. I went and had a surgery, and then a week and a half later, I was down in Biloxi training for Hard Rock Cafe.
Mm,
So I never gave myself time to recover.
yeah.
I figure, okay, I'll have this surgery, go start this new job, and then give it a year and probably have another surgery. But I started the job, and 3 months into the job, COVID hit. So they put us down to part time. So I never got my insurance started.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, that was 2 years of that.
Yeah.
And then finally, the third year coming up on it, they were giving me a hard time about insurance. So at that point, I said, you know what? It's time to go somewhere else.
Yeah, that's you sound like you hit a rough patch of timing with the your health stuff mixed with the COVID
Right.
quarantine.
Right.
So we had met, and I'm not quite sure what happened first. I'm not quite sure if it was historical league, or you had started like a
I think
website.
it was Anthony's league where we first met.
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah.
But you had started something called Collectors Baseball Club. Um,
Oh yeah, that's actually a baby of mine that I still have in the incubator.
yeah, tell us
Uh,
a little bit about it.
it's something I'm really proud of, but I'm going to need a lot of help if I'm going to continue. I actually formed an actual business, an LLC, where I had one point we had 35 leagues, 35 different commissioners, Collectors Baseball Club. We were paying all the fees, the stats plus fees for the teams, for the leagues. The commissioners just had to say, hey, I want to be a part of it. And we liked the league. We took them. But also part of that too, it was like an eBay style store in it as well. So it was free memberships for everyone that was already involved in the league. And, you could buy, sell baseball cards, all kinds of sports memorabilia on it. It's like eBay, but you weren't gouged the prices as eBay was.
Right, and more focused specifically on like sports collectibles, so autographs, cards, things like
And it was
that.
completely catered to OOTP online.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, I mean, I was in there for a little bit, and I appreciate you had helped, with a portion of the Stats Plus fees for at least a season, and then I know all hell broke loose there with your health, but I love the idea, and I'm still part of that Slack channel. And yeah, I wish you the best in that future. I think it's such a great idea. Yeah,
It's a shame that OOTP isn't doing more for online catering. They're all about Perfect League. I hate Perfect League more than anything else.
yeah, I
You
agree.
know, if they were smart, they would really get into the online play and capitalize on that, because that's where all the money is.
It's strange. I
They,
mean, I can see how the blueprint through things like Fortnite and games like that, where they're just essentially you know uh, having you purchase packs and consistently spend $5, $7, $10 here and there. I can see how that makes sense and adds up compared to the old traditional aspect of buy the video game for whatever $40 or $60 and then be done with it. So that
yeah,
continued revenue makes sense. And I can see the appeal to Perfect Team, especially from their perspective for that. I have never played Perfect Team. I don't like the idea of constantly dumping money into the
right.
thing. And mainly because I think there's such a great product elsewhere inside the game itself that I haven't needed to venture to it. But yeah, it's amazing to me. And I've probably mentioned this before on one of the podcasts that, they give you this dead end of with the ability to do the online leagues, but then it's kind of just like figured out for yourself. Whereas you take like an EA Sports type world where you and I could link up right now and play any of their games, Madden or hockey, and have a whole online world and community where it seems like it has to generate some type of revenue.
Right.
So I don't understand the disconnect there between the engineers and OTP in general, but it is a shame. I mean, good for Dave at Stats Plus, but
Oh yeah, that man's banking. See, creating leagues is my specialty, and I'm going to have. I had a league at one point. I'm going to do another league here again soon, where you talk about the Fortnite and stuff with the upgrades. This league is going to be all about upgrades,
okay,
but you can't upgrade players so much, but you can upgrade your stadium.
okay,
You start off with the bare minimum stadium, and say 32,000 fans, and you can upgrade each season a limited amount. You can buy packets, and everything you buy to upgrade goes into a prize pool.
that's
So
pretty cool. Okay,
so at the end of the season, the prize pool is divided up. Whatever gets spent, I had it set up to where every single team got paid.
hmm.
All if all the playoffs got paid, and then everybody after got paid. You had to. There was a quota. Say it was a $600 quota. Once it hit 600, everything after that, 50% of it went to the teams that didn't make playoffs.
Okay,
So
interesting.
it was a great league. I just wish I had more time at it. Everything kind of went downhill because I had the surgeries and everything
Yeah,
going on.
life.
So, but I had one. It was completely fictional league, but this next time I'm probably going to do a modern one. So that way, it's more people recognize the names
Right.
and
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
more into it. So, you know,
Easy to recruit.
right. Fictional leagues don't do very well online.
Yeah.
Historical leagues are great, but OOTP game itself hates historical leagues,
As we
as
are
we all
learning in a
notice,
different league.
because
Yeah.
yeah, it's just you've got to roll with what they give you, or you're pretty much screwed.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So we're in a few leagues together. We met in the historical league. I know you are no longer in that. I actually just gave my notice in that league, which is tough. It was the first league I have ever backed out of, and I love the league. I love the commissioner. I love my team. I just wish there was a little more competition and involvement. And so I just figured, now's the time to maybe trim it down to 6.
Yeah,
But
that's exactly where I was too
yeah,
with him. I
I
love
figured.
Anthony Lampley. He's a great. I've known Anthony. He was in since one of my first leagues a few years back, and he's still in my leagues now. And I really hated leaving, but I just felt it was time.
Yeah, no, he's a sweet guy. So, kind of taking that and spinning off that, I know you've been playing for a long time. I'd love to hear about that. I know you've done a bunch of different styles. Do you have a preference? Do you enjoy historical fiction or modern a little more, or is it just kind of
I
dependent on?
like historical leagues best.
Yeah. Okay.
I've been because I'm older.
Yeah.
If I was 21, 22, I'd probably be all about modern leagues.
Yeah.
But
Right. Right.
since I started watching baseball in '84, so there's so much rich history that I just absolutely love baseball. I think it's the greatest sport ever.
I'm with you. I mean, I love, the historical leagues for the same reason. And it probably ties into, your appreciation of the collectibles is that these are like most of the time, the two that I've played in are of the era I've collected cards, so the, mid 80s through the 90s. And it's really cool to see those, those names again and those players, and even see a couple high school friends that are, people that I knew that made it, quote unquote, but don't necessarily become MLB players or stars, but we get to draft them.
Right.
um, so how many leagues are you in now? I know you trimmed it down, but what's your count?
I've trimmed it down to 8.
All right.
I commissioned 3 leagues.
Okay.
I have they're all 3 historical. I have a random debut league, which you started, it says season end. Then I have a '70s league and I have a '50s league.
Okay.
I don't, you're familiar with Steven or not, Steven Lurker. He helps me. He's a great kid. Kid has autism. He helps me run the '70s and the '50s league. He's been helping a little bit, so he runs a lot of simulations for me
That's
when I'm
great,
busy.
man. How'd you
So
guys link up?
he joined the Collectors Baseball Club and really wanted to learn how to commish leagues. So I was like, okay, I'll teach you how to do it. And
That's
so he's been
great.
helping me. And I think now he's running like 6 leagues for people.
That's awesome, man. Well, that's what's really cool, about the online aspect, that sometimes it's hard, not everyone is interested in being social, and sometimes it's just hard to be social with schedules and things like that. But it's kind of one of the inspirations, as you probably know, behind the idea of the podcast was just to get to know everyone. So I was excited when you said you wanted to do it because, we've crossed paths a bunch, we've chatted a bunch, and I know that you had an interesting life, between the Collectors Baseball Club and some of the health stuff. I knew you were a chef, and so it's pretty cool having you on there. For some reason, my brain, you lived in California, so it's neat to know that you live in Tennessee. um, and the name, right? So I know that you go by Hammertime in OOTP. Is that a play off your name? How'd that come about?
Yeah, like I said, I used to box, and I did a little MMA on the side,
Yeah.
and they called me the Hammer.
Okay. Oh, that's awesome.
My specialty was my elbow, and in mixed martial arts, so it was deadly. I cut up a lot of people with it. So, and then, I just kept Dave Hammertime after
That's
that.
great. Yeah. My nickname would be the Turtle. Yeah. So
Tortuga. Tortuga.
there you go. Yeah. So you said you've been playing early on. Did you jump in on like the single digits of OTP?
I did. When I was playing, we had your drafts were on forums. It was all forum basis. Nothing. There was no Slack. The communication was very slow. Drafts were one person at a time on the forum. It
Stats
was
Plus wasn't
very
even around yet, correct? There was
right. Not
another
even
option.
around. It was very old school. There was no live simulation games. You know, but I started doing this type of thing back when I was in the 8th grade.
Wow.
Computer baseball sim. I don't know if you remember that. It was one of the earlier baseball simulation games.
Yeah, I'm
A
not
group of
familiar.
us in 8th grade, we would got in class. We were on the baseball team, and we just formed a league. And with this, I came up with like 700 I just created names. I started making names, and we'd pass the paper around in class and would draft
That's great.
with
That's
a
great.
notebook. So there was, OOTs basically was the same way when it started.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Once stats came along, and then that was just a breath of fresh air. It's come a long way.
It
It's
has.
come
Yeah.
a long, long way.
Yeah, it just gave me some flashbacks saying.
like for example, autos getting autoed in the draft used to be a punishment. Now it's kind of a blessing for some teams. My random league, we had a Milwaukee GM. I actually had to replace him after the 9th round of our inaugural 135 round draft
Wow.
because he would get autoed and he would take himself off, and take himself.
Gotcha. Right.
Well,
Yeah.
well, guess who won the league the first season?
Right.
His
Yeah.
his team won the league.
That's great. So do you think that's more, and not to digress so far, but do you think that's something that Dave at Stats Plus has really kind of improved upon, is just kind of the algorithms or whatever?
Oh, absolutely. I think that's got to be all Dave.
Yeah.
OOTP has nothing to do with it. The way it was explained to me by Dave is OOTP designs the game, puts the game out there, and then really does it. Occasionally we'll put a couple of updates, and they
Wipes their
focus on
hands and says,
perfectly.
figure it out. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And that's why every time I chat with him, I feel bad because it's always usually trying to solve a problem, but I can't express enough, and as much as I try through text form, how much I do appreciate his time and the efforts, because it's neat seeing, some of the improvements that have come, through, like, I guess the most recent ones being like the trade block and then the trade tool. But even like the smaller little options in there, I'm sure there's plenty I don't even know about, but it is such a powerful little tool for this, especially being that there is essentially that dead end that is left by OOTP. So cool, man. So you hopped in with us here. I guess this is you're just wrapping the first full season, right? Because
Right. Yeah, I'm into season 2 now.
Yeah, so we had one of the guys who helped me start the league had Tampa, and then you and I, obviously being in other leagues with the opening, brought it in. We took Tampa to Nashville, which makes sense now that I know where you are. And the team's still a beast, and I love seeing my friend Craig, who took over Boston, admire and be frustrated with how well you're doing, as he's posted in the forum here. So let's take a look, man. You're I know we have a couple topics we wanted to chat about, but I wanted to just kind of dig into the graph chart here. You had said that you recently slid Franco to short. Was there a reason behind that? I mean, man, he's still...
absolutely. I had a shortstop. He's a wonderful defensive shortstop, probably the best in the league. But he had poor attitude and he had no bat. And I got tired of trying to find a unicorn shortstop.
Yeah.
So Franco got injured. So what I did is I took advantage, and I suggest everyone do this when they have an opportunity. If you're going to send someone down to rehab minors and you think maybe they can play another position, well, guess what? That's your opportunity to do it right then and there if you haven't done it spring training.
Yeah.
Spring training obviously is the best time to do it. But if you're going to send a guy down, have him work on a new position. And that's exactly what I did. I sent him down there for the full 20 days. And when I first moved him to shortstop, his rating went from, the 70 at third base overall to 47 overall.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, this is horrible. But a month and a half into it, that 47 is now up to a 61 overall.
Okay. Wow. Yeah.
And he's stroking. He's probably the best shortstop in the league, in fact. Let me pull up.
Yeah, so Franco, I mean, still he's 32 years old. He was drafted, I believe, in the first pick when we did our inaugural draft here. But yeah, 16 range. So would you say for you, is that kind of the borderline of range where you prefer a shortstop? Are you, kind of dealing with it because his bat's so good? Because I saw that, next to in your depth chart there.
Right. The 60 overall, I don't look at so much as I do the actual defensive ratings itself.
Okay. All right. You see, then we touched upon this in one of the last chats. I think that was with Craig from the Yankees. So, and that was one of my questions I was posing, is that in the case of Franco, his shortstop rating is potential 60. Right now it sits at 50. And my question was the specifics there, the infield range, the infield error, infield arm, turn double play. How much do you think that those are more important than, let's say, the ratings overall?
It's 100% more important than the overall
Okay.
rating. Overall ratings honestly means squat to me.
Now, when we're talking overall, are you speaking about, here, like the potential and overall, or the specific position rating? So like, again, like him being 50, 60 at short, but having a little bit.
Yes,
Okay.
yes to both.
Okay.
Yes to
All right.
both.
Interesting.
Because
Yeah.
also too, when let's off subject for a minute.
Yeah.
I like a lot of high contact, low eyes, and avoid Ks.
Yeah.
High avoid Ks. The Tony Gwynn's, Ichiro style hitters.
Mm-hmm.
And OOTP really does not prefer those type of players. So those players will have lower overall ratings every single time.
Right.
So in a sense, they're easier to steal.
So a guy like, for example, I'm only doing it because I know my depth chart here, but a guy like this, where we're looking at Jorge Plantier, the Dodgers right fielder, where contact 75, got power 65, disciplines 50, void K 70. He's an okay right fielder mainly because he has an arm, but he's only 53 overall. I feel like, if he had 50 power,
that's kind of high. See, I could even go with the smaller eye discipline guy there. I could go with the 30-40 range.
Yeah.
It means he's not going to walk. It means he's going to get a base hit.
Right. Would you, so you, out of the preference between eye and discipline versus avoid Ks, do you prefer the avoid Ks?
Absolutely. The higher the void, better. If you take a look at my leadoff hitter, Raul, he's got a 60 contact, which is decent. He's got a great gap. Gaps are highly underrated.
Okay, so he's your right fielder here. And I think that was a topic that, I don't know if you had a chance to listen with the last time we were chatting with Craig, our New York manager. He was kind of mentioning how when he first started, one of the vets had mentioned to him, the contact, but also the gap. And that's funny because that's something I generally ignore. It is something I just generally don't care about. So hearing back-to-back conversations bring that up is making me once again realize how ignorant I am.
You should care about it. Let me tell you that. But yeah, you definitely care about it. But you see how he's got pretty decent numbers, but look at his speed, his stealing, his base running is all great.
Right.
His defense is average, overall. But he has a 48 overall.
Yeah.
The guy's got a 356 on base percentage. I'll take that all day long. And he's got 39 stolen bases.
Right. Yeah. He's leading the league each year in stolen bases.
No, I mean, give him a 48 all day long. So I'm fine with that.
I do think that's a great, point. And that's something that I know especially when you first start playing, and I know that I think OOTP standard is playing with stars versus the rating numbers. So playing online was the first time I ever played without stars and going to that rating number. And I definitely, up until not that long ago, in the grand scheme of things, was more hung up on the potential overall, right? The summary. Whereas what you're saying is correct. And, obviously, some leagues play stats only without ratings, and that drives, the decisions and heavy information. But really the basic bars here in the ratings, 60 contact, 65 gap, 30 power, a home run, 50 discipline, and 80 avoid K, with the base running and the bunting and blah, blah, blah. And like you said, decent defense. It does seem like that number would be higher. Do you have any insight, like from the behind the scenes thing, like why OOTP squashes that?
Because they suck.
All right, fair enough. Yeah.
Honestly, I think it's a glitch in the matrix.
Okay.
They don't give them the love they deserve.
Right.
It's because they don't have the full power. OOTP is more geared to the 5 tools.
Gotcha.
And this is not a 5 tool kind of guy. He doesn't have the power.
Yeah. Makes sense. Okay. So I wonder if we, for example, I'm always curious to see if we change position, right? So if we put him at designated hitter, okay, so it goes up a little bit. And oops, I'm gonna move your guy to the minors there. All right, so his position movement doesn't really alter that much. Okay. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I'm with you. I love the build of this guy, especially for leadoff hitter and outfielder. Yeah. So defensively, you had a shortstop there that you were saying was great defensively. Was that Gates here? Because it's 75
No,
range.
he's in my AAA.
Okay, let me take a look here.
Or what? Did I trade him?
He might be injured too.
It was like Henry
Yeah, there we
Soloner
go. Yeah, he's
or
hurt. Oh
something.
wow, yeah.
Oh, there he is.
Okay.
He's on the DL.
Yep. So
Henry,
he's in AAA.
yeah.
He's out for a couple of weeks.
You pull him up. His defense. Look at his defense.
Yeah,
He's got a 70. I mean, he's 70 overall, and he's should be higher.
it's perfect shortstop.
But he can't hit for a lick, and he's got an attitude.
Yeah.
Which is a whole nother thing that people should avoid like the plague.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you.
Team chemistry in this game is everything. It's the
Yeah.
difference between winning and losing the World Series.
Interesting. So, not to digress so far off your lineup there, do you mind if I check out your personnel here real quick?
Absolutely.
All right. So personnel, and so when you come in here, when you look at the staff cohesion, obviously you're in a good place, right? You're happy. When
winning cures all.
Well, that's true.
Winning cures all. Yeah.
When you are hiring coaches, how much are you spending time with the works well with, struggles with, the personalities? And
what I look at is the relationships.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Relationships for the players. That's the first thing I look at. Actually, let me go back. The first thing I look at is, are they going to get along with the other managers? The personality works well with and struggles with. I make sure those go hand in hand together.
Okay.
Because if you have a disruptive staff, then you're going to have issues. And once that lines up, then I'll look at the relationship with the players.
Make sure I could see your stuff there. Okay. That makes sense. Okay. And so I'm pretty much in the same path. Do you, if you have an opening, do you ever use this area here, the current offers? I'm sorry, not the current offers, but the like the AI kind of recommends, or your assistant GM recommends. Do you ever go off that, or do you strictly go and find your own?
I take a look at it briefly, but I never usually like it.
Yeah.
Because I don't think that's an area that AI is improved on that much yet. What I do normally, the first thing I look at is my minor league system.
Right. Okay. Right. Gotcha. And move them on up. Yeah. Which makes sense. And yeah, obviously, you have a guy that's ready if you want it. And
you take a look. My AAA is loaded.
When you go, yeah, wow, yeah. So this league, when we started here, no clue what I was doing. Right, just was again, if you've heard it before, just trying to have some fun during the quarantine. Had no clue it would blossom into the enjoyment I do. So the setup was that we would be the GM and manager. And I'm curious because I'm trying to figure out myself which one I prefer. Do you like the leagues where we have a manager and you as a GM are only a GM? What's your preference there?
I do both, but I prefer the management. I like the micromanagement.
Yeah.
I'm an executive chef, so I'm a micromanager also.
Right.
I like having complete control.
Okay.
I don't. You get into issues where you get managers as they get more experience, they take more control, and becomes a headache because you want a certain lineup. They don't want the certain lineup. They don't want the strategy you want.
Right.
So
you can't move anything. You can't change things. Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
That was kind of my thinking behind it was, it is frustrating. I've actually fired coaches where, all of a sudden it doesn't let me move whatever the strategy, or mainly the strategy. I tend to,
right.
Like to run a lot. And so if it doesn't allow me to move that slider, then it's super frustrating. But yeah, interesting. And so going into the personnel one more time here, I found that the last couple times that I had an opening, and it wasn't in this league, but the AI did a pretty decent job of placing guys, here where it would say current offers, but again, it would just kind of their suggested hires. And I found that it mostly did decent with the works well with, and that at least made my search kind of a decent start because, maybe while the reputations were fair or decent or things like that, and I would dig in to see, actually where they were, good at. In this case, your fair reputation bench coach of Ricky Bones, we look and he's got outstanding influence mechanics, and he handles development well, teaches pitching well. And so it seems like his overall fair rating, it really isn't fair. But the AI was doing a great job of at least matching the works well with, which again, going back to the key cohesion was, I thought pretty impressive and important.
Let's go back to that reputation for just a minute.
Yeah.
The reputations are a little misleading. The scouting director is the only one you can get an immediate boost. Same with the trainer. Everyone else, it's all about their actual experience, their actual time they've done it. It doesn't matter. They can be legendary in every single field, but they haven't managed a game yet. They're going to have inexperience.
Okay, gotcha. Right. So you can find a guy that has, ratings such as, let's just say Ricky Bones, right? In the sense that he, hasn't had any experience, he can be outstanding at certain things, which we found, right? So sometimes we'll create, just to fill in the pool of coaches, we'll create 10 pitching coaches and 10, auto create 10 bench coaches and GMs and blah, 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 blah. And you'll see that they'll have an inexperienced reputation, except inside, maybe they have outstanding pitching or legendary hitting. Do you find that it's more important to go with those ratings rather than the reputation?
Yes.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
now, if you say, let's say you hire someone with inexperience, you're going to have some growing pains for the first few weeks of the season. Okay. For example, when I came to the league last year, I took over a juggernaut of a team, but because I myself was inexperienced, we played just over 500 ball for a while.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, that is interesting. And I'm always curious with that, with like the, again, especially when you have the inexperienced coaches, sometimes it's even just a retired player that might be outstanding at a particular, trait. Tom Glavine retires and he's, amazing at teaching pitching or handling development, but he's inexperienced. I tend to don't really care about that reputation. We'll go with it. So yeah, I was always curious to see how much that affected it, but I'm definitely big on the cohesion, and I love the idea of being able to use the teaching roles to distribute how you want them set up. So we were talking a little bit about kind of ticket prices here. Since we're in front office, do you mind if I take a look at the finances?
Absolutely, go for it. People my ticket price and be like, what the fuck?
Well, I think you said that you were asking me what the baseline is.
Yeah, actually, it was actually looking at it again, I actually raised it $2 from last season.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. So how do you, this is such a huge conversation, right? And this team is, so, well established and just like you said, a juggernaut. But the question of ticket prices is something that I mean, I still struggle with. And I, feel like my system is so basic and conservative and simple and trying to be fair to the fans, even though they don't really exist, but they do. Do you have a general philosophy, especially with someone that's coming in the league?
Yeah, absolutely. The ticket pricing is the if you look at your accounting screen, the ticket pricing is for the season, completely important for your projected and next year budget.
Okay.
First off, winning cures all.
Right.
If you're winning and you're winning and you're winning, constantly raise prices throughout the season.
Okay. So incrementally. So like, let's say
a little bit at a time, not every single sim. Go, if you're winning a bit, raise it, a little bit, raise it a few percent, like 4 or 5%.
Right.
Give it a few sims, you're still winning, raise it 4 or 5% more. But for example, you can actually adjust, let's say, okay, look at my ticket pricing on the finance, change that 72 to say, just change it to, actually first, look at the accounting. You see my next year budget is 278.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, let's raise this, let's say $77. Okay.
All right. So
now go back to accounting.
Okay.
This accounting is now, it's 276.
Wow. Okay.
The 276 before?
Yeah. 278.
278. So it actually, because I raised it $5, it actually dropped to 2 million in projected budget.
So let's say we put 85, right? I might have to hit save here. Let me see.
It's still at 276, but because that's such, it still says a decrease of $2 million in budget. But because I've raised that 19.7% from last year, my next few games, I'm probably going to draw 12,000 fans a game.
Okay.
So you don't want to raise it where your projection drops.
Gotcha. Okay.
Because that's a big red flag.
Yeah.
Now, you can, because what's most important here is the ticketing baseline. Look at your ticketing baseline for the league. Mine's dramatically more.
Yeah.
Only because he was in Tampa and he only had 32,000 capacity fans. And he's been winning year after year after year. The market size is decent. The fan loyalty is great. And the fan interest is off the charts. So the last GM, he took great advantage with this situation. Yeah. And he maximized it most he could possibly do.
So he's almost treating it like, I guess, like how in our culture, how, the football teams do, or I'm sure in other cultures like they do with soccer, where there's such a high supply and demand that, fans are going to pay it, right? They're showing up, maxing out the attendance basically. And, over years, I'm sure, I think our baseline, I think when we chatted about it was $30, if I remember correctly. Let's see here, 29. Okay. Right. So, do you find that's pretty normal for a modern league, kind of low?
I think that's pretty low, especially in the year that we're in.
Yeah. Does it adjust, automatically? I've never even touched it. So whatever it was set at was what it was set at.
That's something that you should adjust each year once you hit the off season.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. And since we're in here, how about like the yearly inflation settings? Is that something that you ever mess with? Is that something that you just leave as is?
I leave as is and just let it go for the year. It does increase.
It does increase automatically. Okay, gotcha. And same with like the qualifying offers. Is that something that auto evolves?
Those at all, because once you start messing with those kind of things, you start dealing with a lot of issues with the game itself.
Okay, right. Which kind of what we're finding out in the other league. Gotcha. Okay, interesting.
This game file is highly sensitive, and you have to be very careful when you make changes as for the league itself.
Yeah.
There's a very specific time frame that you should make changes and only make changes, and that's first day of the law season, prior to 1 day before arbitration. That's the best time as a commission to make any changes. If you make any other changes after that, you could run into problems.
Interesting. Okay. As again, we are finding a little bit through our historical league.
Make sure you send my ticket back to 72 before you're in the export.
Yes, yeah, I did. Yeah, and I'm gonna actually when we run a sim today, I'm actually gonna run it off my laptop, so I'll import your file there. I just wanted to make sure as we're going through, our
like I said, small gradual increases. Don't lower your accounting budget. Constantly check. As soon as you raise the price, go to that screen and look.
Okay.
If your ticket, mine's not gonna go. If my ticket prices were lower, way lower, and I kept raising, you would see an increase in the projected budget each time I did it.
Okay.
So I recommend that for guys, GMs now. Start playing with it. If your team's winning, you got fans showing up, change it this sim and see what happens.
Let me take a quick look real quick. I believe it's a bit unfortunate, but I'm in the league with I'm in a few different leagues with our Pirates owner, and he's kind of gone MIA everywhere. Not kind of, he's gone MIA everywhere. But let me just take a look here. So he is, we might end up needing replacement there, but he's under 500. Let me just take one look to see. Pittsburgh's obviously a tricky market as well. All right. Yeah. So what? I'm sorry. What'd you say, Dave?
Yeah, Pittsburgh's tough.
Yeah. All right. So 18th in budget, 14th in player payroll. He's at 36.50 for a ticket. He's actually lowered his ticket from last year. Is that something you would ever recommend doing?
In a rebuild situation, absolutely,
Okay.
but don't drop it very much at all.
Okay.
Drop it to a point where your accounting's still okay, and then pretty much just leave it there.
Okay.
And
All right.
that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah, and let's play with that a little bit. There's a couple questions I have tied still to finances, but also rebuild. So let's just say we take Pittsburgh here, and they just bottom out, right? You know, they just end up having to rebuild. Their ticket price stays at 36.50 when you take it over. What would you ballpark set it at as like a starting rebuild? $30?
It's at 36 now. I would
Yeah.
no way drop it that much. I would drop it probably 35,
Okay, gotcha. And
because
then
if you drop it too much, you're going to kill your budget.
okay,
And the art of a rebuild is to not be able to lose the minimal amount of budget possible, not take a big free for all.
right.
And
Okay.
there's certain ways you can do that. There's little tricks. You know, for example, you take your team, you're in the off season, you don't have a whole lot of budget. You really, you're sitting on your butt throughout the off season through free agency. But come into January 1st of February, there's still, 37, 38-year-olds who are extremely popular. Offer them that 1-year contract.
Right. And build
Boost
some,
that. Boost, your fan interest. And,
yeah.
They're going to show up. They won't be great, but, you're not going to lose a ton of budget this way.
Right. That makes sense. Yeah.
You've got the money. Use the money. Use it or lose it.
Yeah. Okay. And then that ties in perfectly to my next kind of question and topic here. So when we go over and look at, let's say, things like scouting budget and development budget, I've for a long time I was copying and pasting, basically kind of trying to max out development budget, right? And for those that don't know, as you adjust this number, it will pull from your extension and free agent money. So if I was to adjust Pittsburgh here, which is at 30 to 35, and I hit enter, will not let me. No, maybe because I'm not Pittsburgh. Let's try that. So if I adjust Pittsburgh from 30 to 35 mil and hit enter, we'll see the overall. It won't let me, huh? Okay. Well, I'm not sure why it won't. Well, maybe because it doesn't have the number. So let me just adjust. Maybe it doesn't have that 5 million. That's why, Jeff. Sorry here. Trying to do a science project without knowing the science. Let's go to 33 million. Still won't let me. About 31.
Well, the max is 30.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, either way, when we pull from these numbers, they will affect your free agents and extensions there. I've recently, almost in every league, have lowered my scouting budget. And I know that's kind of a no-no, but my ignorant thinking is that I'm just going to assign my scout when I need him. Whereas I know obviously it is more advantageous for him to do his job without me having to direct him. I know that your scouting budget is pretty maxed. What you're thinking upon there, is it something that you would use like lower if you needed the money, or how do you handle the scouting budget?
If I was absolutely desperate and I was all in to win this season and I had to sign a certain player to win the championship, I would lower my budget.
Okay.
Scouting only, not development.
Okay.
But lowering, first off, you should max out both every single season, development and scouting. Max out your scouting. You're doing yourself an injustice if you don't, because there's so many things that come along with it. It's not just so many scouting reports, especially now. The game has gotten better for scouts. You will notice a lot more very high scouting accuracies throughout the league. You'll get more international players throughout the season, better international players.
With a higher scouting budget.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Gotcha.
With you lower that budget. And also, too, it's going to affect your scouting accuracy as well.
Okay.
If you got a lower budget, you put that budget down to $10 million, you're going to you could see somebody, oh, this guy's a 70 overall rating when he's probably a 47.
Interesting.
I've seen it. Yeah, it happens.
When you're saying that, are you speaking specifically with the scouting accuracy as it shows is very high, or as in terms of no matter that, even if it says very high, he's
It
still
could, it
30.
could it could be very high and it could still be completely off.
Wow, interesting. Okay. Yeah, that would be scary.
Yeah, I've seen it a lot, especially in 23.
Okay. Yeah, I was able, as we were playing around a little bit, I was able to mess with his overall scouting budget. So if I push this to 8 million, we'll see the adjustment in the free agent and the extensions. I mainly wanted to pull back because I know we have some people that don't mess with it too much, just make sure they can see that. Interesting. So in Pittsburgh's case here, they have a ton of money for extensions, not necessarily enough for free agents. Is that primarily because when we look at their books that they have a couple guys that are high end, but only for the short period of time, right? So like Burkhart's making $50 million a year here, Ed Howard's 16, so they're tight for the next year or so, but kind of open up for extensions. Like I can offer any of these guys extensions. Can you explain a little bit
Right. Also, doesn't take into account your salary arbitration deals.
Okay, you're saying the extensions doesn't, correct?
Correct.
Gotcha.
That doesn't go because you don't. It's really a projection, and it doesn't really lock it in until after arbitration.
Right, and because they can adjust as well.
Right. You could release those players. You could, they may not be there, or the their arbitration could be higher.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Okay. So jumping back to you here real quick. I keep wanting to go to Tampa.
And he's paying the guy $50 million.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you have Franco at 47, but he's
worth every penny.
Yeah. As is Alvarez, man. He has been a monster. Jordan Alvarez, 36 years old now. I can't believe.
Check out his total home runs.
It's insane, right? So
he's getting close to Bonds.
Yeah, 737. Wow. Wow. That's impressive. I just can't believe that he has basically zero decline in his ratings here. I mean, maybe you've seen it in speed and infield range and things like that, but I mean,
and look at his work ethic too. That's really what really boggles my mind.
Which one? I'm sorry.
Yonder, he's got his work ethic is,
yeah, right. He's low. Yeah.
Oh, that really confuses me.
That's crazy.
I've never seen someone be such a dominant beast.
He has, and when he was acquired, I was figuring, it was a great option, great trade for him, but I didn't think he would last as long. And part of it was, me using real life, as far as the dude's pretty young, he's got 2 bad knees. He might not age well, but I guess he's a first baseman there. You have a couple guys here. So Chris Quick, correct me if I'm wrong, but I've seen him on the trade block, correct? At some point?
No.
Okay.
No.
For some reason, I
Chris,
thought
it was a scrub starter.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, this guy's a beast, right? So 77 overall.
Pitching staff is a beast.
Yeah. I mean, and obviously not preferred, but he's got a couple. His personality isn't fantastic, but he's still producing. And I did say, I think it was Infante. I think I saw you had on the block here, right? So, am I incorrect? Yeah. So
yeah, I did. I did at the time, but that was before the Franco trade because I had Hanley, and there's actually another who plays third base, and then there's another third baseman in AAA that were just both beasts. So I had to move Franco out of there, and I had to find them a hole somewhere. Yeah. So if you look at my starting third baseman, yeah, this guy's a beast. Wait till he comes up. But look at my starting third baseman now, Hanley.
Yeah, so Chris Hanley here. Wow. Yeah. 8th round.
I mean, I had to plug him into the lineup.
Yeah.
Guy's he's played 70 games. He's got how many home runs?
Yeah, he's got 23.
Bombs.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
and he had 9.
That's another reason for the Franco move.
Yeah. No, he's definitely got a great bat there. So for third base, right? So talking about defense here. Obviously he's got the arm to play third. Little light on the range, little light on error. I guess double play doesn't matter as much at third base. Is this something that you tolerate at third? Is this
it's
average?
It's slower than I normally like.
Yeah.
Because your third base is you want your air and all in autos, but not everybody is obviously. Obviously, if you got a vacuum there, that's great for your pitching. But what helps is I have a stellar pitching staff as it is already.
Right.
So that makes it a little easier to tolerate a less defensive player.
Yeah,
Now,
because
if I had a questionable pitching staff, I would probably go try to find a better defensive player, but I had to put Hanley in the lineup somewhere.
yeah, makes sense. Well, you got a great catcher too. So Gabby Grove, 28 years old, still under arbitration, really good hitter. I mean, I love this profile as a catcher. And you
Right.
would say in today's world with not as much running, although that maybe that changes with the rule
He's a
changes.
perfect example of a low rating. He's everything I was talking about. High contact, great gap, low eye discipline, and high Ks. But he has no speed, so therefore he's not a 5-tool player. So OOTP doesn't like him.
Right. So 52 rating, switch hitter too. Catcher ability obviously trumps catcher arm, correct?
Correct. Ability means more than anything else. I can't stress the importance of a great catcher for your team. It's your catcher is your field general. But you see, this guy, I got another. He's low loyalty, low adaptability, and low intelligence.
Yeah,
Typically, he was already with the team when I took over. Usually, I look for the field generals.
makes sense.
High leadership, high worth ethic, high
Yeah,
intelligence.
in your catcher. Well, it's funny too, and this is something maybe that is maybe it's game, you know, scenarios, and not necessarily occurs in real life. But I find that like most catchers tend to be some of the most intelligent players in the field, right?
Oh,
Why a lot of them
absolutely.
become coaches. So it's interesting in the game how we have these, a lot of the low intelligent catchers, loyalty and adaptability. I don't know how much it necessarily matters at the position, but it's always baffling to me to see like low intelligent, low work ethic at catchers because by nature I just feel like that doesn't necessarily happen. Um,
Exactly.
yeah. Whereas like this personality for your backup in Caleb Smallwell is like a perfect catcher, is what I would figure. He's a leader. Again, I don't necessarily
That's why he's on the team. I moved. Check out my team chemistry.
yeah. So I probably go the long way here, but I go into
Go home. Hit home. Team chemistry. There we go.
right. Okay, so a couple bad
This
relationships.
this is the only league where I've had one, two, three, 4, 5 outspoken or selfish players. I
Interesting.
usually
Yeah.
don't have any at all. But again, in this situation, winning cures all.
Right.
As
It
long
went.
as we're winning, it's not going to impact it as much.
Yeah. So
But
in this scenario where let's say, whatever falls apart, right? Franco gets hurt, Alvarez gets hurt, you start losing games, you wouldn't be surprised if there's issues, you get complaints.
it would absolutely become a problem.
Right. So as this team becomes more yours in the future, then wouldn't be surprised to see these guys gone.
They will absolutely be gone.
Fair enough. Um, oh, sorry, I went to
Oh yeah, that's not my team.
yeah, sorry about that. I don't know how I got there. Probably because I was not managing it. There we go. Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah. You only have a couple there, but no
Oh yeah.
captain, which you're still looking for, right?
But see, that's a little misleading because I have Smallwood as a captain. If you look down in the notes,
Yeah, interesting. Right. Okay.
you look the
So
notes at the
he's
bottom.
basically saying he's a leader. I got you. Right. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he hasn't been. I don't think I've had him on the team that long, active roster as long.
Yeah.
But I have him. I mean, because his stats are horrible. He's definitely not even a good backup.
Right.
But his leadership trumps all.
Right. Right. Makes sense. And how often you're playing your backup catcher once, maybe twice a week. So that piece of what he brings to the team is more important than anything else in that sense.
Right. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. The two looks a lot better than the 5.
Right.
Disruptive players.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. Let me take a look at your minor league system here. Always pretty strong, and so I know that through the years there's been a couple trades that have thinned it out a little bit, but you got the Pineda trade that was with Toronto in 31, so he's basically next in line for your third base there. Can play first, I guess, if you needed him to. Interesting. Says he plays center, but okay, yeah, he can play a little outfield. Um, But yeah, he looks like he's going to be super solid when he comes up, and he's about ready. He's cooked
Right.
in a good
He's
way.
got no experience, but here's another situation. I moved him to the active, not the 40-man roster last sim
Yeah.
before the September 1st deadline.
Okay.
That way, in case something happens and I do need him to play in the playoffs, he's available.
It's a key topic, and I've learned that the hard way, right? So game date here, we have August 29th. If we take a look at reports and info, come down the league event list, we can see that roster expansion happens this next sim, which will be in about 45 minutes here. And so
Get him in, Phil.
get them in. So when we hit this roster expansion, then at that point, anyone that is added to the 40-man after cannot be eligible for playoffs. Correct?
Correct.
Right. So that's the key move here is that we get this guy ready. I've learned that the rough way, where whether it's been a free agent signing late in the game, a minor league signing, a backup third catcher, that all of a sudden I need because my catcher gets hurt. It's important to have your 40-man set before the roster expansion. So will you bring Pineda up for
Yeah, he's
potentially?
going to come up. He's going to come up after this sim.
Okay. All right. Gotcha. And I see a lot of locks on your guys. I don't know if that's something you were done or was done prior. I mean, I assume.
Oh, no, that's something I do.
Okay. So you're locking them in strategy. So let's take a look at like Chris Barrel here. Just a closer, 25-year-old closer in AAA. This is his second season there. Right. And then, so in strategy, you're locking him to the team and the strategy, correct?
Correct.
So basically the promotion. So
it's be completely honest, individual player strategies, I don't really dive into until the playoffs.
okay, interesting. Okay, you just let him ride.
I let them ride as
Yeah.
long as we're winning, and it's not dire. It's not absolutely important. I just let it go. I let them play their own game.
Yeah.
I let the managers control them. I use the lock because I get lazy and I auto my lineups.
You're in 8
my
leagues.
minor leagues.
Okay.
But and I'm typically fine with it. But I want my important players, my top players, to stay where I put them specifically.
Right. Makes sense. Right. So I'm pretty much the same way, right? So I don't necessarily care. In here, like you have your left fielder Kevin Plunkett in AA, 13th overall prospect, 27th pick overall in 33. Guy looks like he's going to be a monster with the bat. 71 overall with, elite bars everywhere pretty much. And so you have him locked basically in AA, playing his position at left field, right?
Right. I just moved to actually too.
Moved there. Okay, gotcha. Whereas, like, let's say, your center fielder, Eddie Cox, 26-year-old, he's probably going to be a forever, minor leaguer. You're not necessarily worried about his strategy or where he is in your system. Correct?
Correct.
Yeah. I'm pretty much the same way.
Go back to Kevin.
Yeah. Yes. So Kevin Plunkett here.
Yeah. If you see, he was drafted this year.
Right. Yeah.
And he's moved up. And I moved him to AA. He's been raking in every league. And I could have left him in the one where he was previously, but I'm only moving him up to AA is because they're in a playoff hunt and I want him to get that experience.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Okay. Gotcha.
That actually matters in this game.
Yeah. That's pretty neat. So you'll keep an eye on your records of your minor league teams, and just make sure kind of that you are promoting to the right spots based on that, correct?
Correct.
So you're 78, so you're 3 games back for your AA team here. That's pretty interesting. Yeah, I never really even pay attention to my minor leagues record wise outside of just I'll get the emails saying that they qualified or won or disqualified. It's pretty
experience matters.
Yeah, it makes sense. All right. So and in Plunkett's situation, so he was drafted this year. He's a college bat, 20 years old, I'm assuming, when he's drafted, 21 maybe. Do you have a preference? I mean, obviously picking late in the draft, sometimes you're kind of just taking what comes to you, but do you, generally prefer, bats over pitching early on? Do you generally prefer, college over high school? What's your preferences there?
I take the best available athlete at that time.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
Because the GM with the most prospects at the end of the game is usually the first one fired.
Right. Fair enough. Okay.
So I can draft the best athlete with no intentions of what I'm going to do with him long term. He could probably be traded
Right. Makes
for
sense.
whatever piece of development or piece of player I need at that time.
Right.
So yeah, it's all about getting the best athlete for me. And generally, I prefer bats over arms because obviously they play every single day versus every 5 days. And pitchers are really, really hard to develop.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, I've come to find that as I grow in my knowledge here that, early on, finding pitchers in general, I always feel like, like finding shortstops or great center fielders or they're unicorns, right? And so when you can hold one, you get one, it feels great. And you eliminate that search for that particular, position. And obviously pitching is so key. But I've had so many failures of my draft picks with pitchers that I've definitely have shifted a little bit more towards bats, unless I find that college arm that seems pretty elite.
Right.
But I definitely feel it's more of a coin flip with developing pitchers compared to bats. Not that you don't have the failures in bats, but it just seems less.
I feel scouts are more accurate with bats versus
Bats.
pitchers.
Okay. Yeah. 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 I do have a question. We were hitting upon um, the budgets and things like that. Do you fiddle a little bit with your scouting budget at all? Uh,
Absolutely.
okay. So, and do you have preferences here as you slide your sliders?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I put probably 39-40% into my international budget.
Okay.
I want players. I want them out there scouting, getting the big ones. I put the least amount in my
Major
major,
leagues. Yeah.
next minors, and then a big portion in the amateur budget.
Okay. Makes sense. Yeah. That's interesting. And do you pay attention a lot to, recently scouted? Do you come in here and take a look, or do you just kind of just let it be and then,
I let it ride.
yeah, yeah, same. Yeah. Interesting. Well, you're definitely in good shape, man. I mean, the team is a beast, and despite some decent teams in the division, it's been interesting watching these guys kind of battle. It's kind of been a little bit of yo-yo where we had Toronto, up there and in the playoffs a little bit, and the Yankees. I don't know if you had a chance to listen to the last podcast, but it seems like they could be a better team than they're showing. Um, but you have been the stalwart in this division for years, and I don't know if it's going to go anywhere anytime soon. We have a couple older guys that are getting up there from the bat standpoint. But Chris Quick looks like he's going to be an ace for the next few years. Jeremy Neese is 27, and
Mendoza's a beast too. He's like third in the league in ERA. He should
right.
technically be a rookie, but I got screwed out of that somehow.
Let's see. Yeah, we were chatting a little bit about that, whether it was the the time, the major league service time, right? Is kind of where we're
Right.
trying to figure out. Yeah, it came up in another league, and I did post it somewhere where I was trying to figure out as well. I know there's like a for rookie time, there's the innings pitched and the bats, but there also was an association with how long they have major league service time. So it has to be what he maxed out on, I assume. Um, I'm not
Right.
sure where it was in this 1 year, 38
Typically,
games.
on OOTP, it's 75 games service time.
Okay.
78, not games, but 75 days on the active roster.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay. Yeah. And this is an interesting mix here. So I mean, yeah, so Jose Mendoza, 23-year-old. God, man, he just looks like a beast and he developed so well. Picked in 29 and 12th round, 70 stuff, 55 movement, 45 control. It's interesting though when you see that cutter as the first pitch, and then, but I mean, at least he's got the slider and changeup mix. But do you have any preferences there? Are you ever caring about that when you're looking at pitchers? Do you have a preference of?
Yes,
Yeah.
typically I like high movement and high control,
Okay. Okay.
and that's another. It can be misleading as well. A pitcher can have an overall lower rating, but if they have high movement and high control, they can be dominant pitcher for a long
Right.
time.
Yeah. So in this case, I mean, not necessarily your ideal, but with the elite stuff, you'll take a little bit lower control.
Stuff, his 80 changeup, it kind
Yeah.
of trump all.
Yeah. Durability is great. Yeah. This guy's gonna be a beast for a while. And then Eric Wells in your fourth. Wow. Jesus. So traded with Cleveland in 29, still minimum contract. He's 22 years old, righty, maxed out 80. Wow. Yeah, he looks like a monster. And how many pitches? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pitches. I mean, 2 are basically kind of worthless, but still 4 pitches of plus pitches, great movement, great control. Wow. Yeah, he's a
I've
monster
also noticed too with out of the park, the changeups, there's a glitch.
because they develop
Changeups
so well.
they take too long to develop.
Right. But they can hit. You wouldn't be surprised. I mean, maybe not
Right.
now. I don't know, but I've seen it go from something like where we see here like 30 over 50 to 80, within, a couple
Right.
seasons. Interesting.
Right. Very inconsistent.
Yeah. Do you
And
think
it's
that's
just
something that they're trying to mimic off real life or just a glitch?
what's that?
Do you think that's something that they're trying to mimic in real life where the guys,
No, it's a glitch.
okay,
It's a glitch.
gotcha. Interesting. And then your 5th starter would be an ace on most teams. So we have Gabriel Starks, 31-year-old, free agent at the end of the year. Oh, next
Yeah.
year. Okay, you get one more season.
We've got a ton of budget.
Right.
What is the aging factor here?
That's a good question here. Whatever it is, I can tell you um it was set by whatever was told to me, right? So 0.8. So I guess a little slow for batters. I guess the same, right? So pitchers.
Yeah, that's pretty. I like that.
Yeah.
I run for my leagues. I do a 0.75
Okay.
and then a 1.2 on development.
1.2
So it developed faster.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. And do you find that that helps like across the board with development, like as far as pitchers, batters, uh, you know, international players?
Yeah,
Okay.
everybody,
Okay.
all prospects.
I kind of like that from a standpoint of keeping engagement from teams, right?
Hmm.
I could see people, that's obviously some teams are in it. Like, you're in it here. And so there's a little bit more natural engagement because you can win it. But then if we have a team like the Cardinals that's in rebuild, seeing their guys, progress a little bit more would be appealing.
Right, they progress faster. The rebuilds don't last nearly as long.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's good to know. Do you have a preference? Rebuilds, or do you like to
I
come
play.
in?
I
Yeah.
play to win.
All right, all right. I'm kind of with you. Although I do a couple of leagues, I do have like smaller markets. In one league, I'm Cleveland, and I enjoy that challenge. And so winning does feel a little more, uh, you know, uh,
Rewarding.
yeah, it does. There's some challenges behind it, but as you probably heard, we evened everything out when we first started this. So we're trying to eliminate. I just assumed no one wanted to rebuild, and I assumed no one wanted to be in, Kansas City outside them just being a favorite team. So it's interesting to see how it evolved a little bit and how each GM handles things.
Right.
And it's such a weird like hodgepodge of a league because it started with a couple friends that we didn't know what we're doing, and now we have a mix of guys like you that have a lot of experience, and then guys that are brand new. And that was kind of one of the other elements of at least introducing the podcast was, again, I wanted to get to know people and pick their brains, but also try to share, any knowledge and resources so that, any level person might pick up on something. I feel like there's always something to grab in here, no matter, how much experience you have or what your focus is. But especially as we have, people all over that bell curve in the game, I feel like there's always some piece of knowledge that people can pick up, so.
I think these podcasts you're doing are absolutely fabulous.
No, it's
When
great, man.
I pick CBC back up, I'm going to throw you in there for your own podcast channel.
Oh, that'd be
For
awesome, man.
randomly talk to every single GM as whenever you can.
Yeah. It's
I
fun.
think it's a lot of fun.
It is. I mean, I enjoy people, and I enjoy learning. So, and when we combine the community of what we have here, I think it only, gives it a chance to bring it closer together. And hopefully as we grow, we can bring some more options and make it more enjoyable for everyone. But on that note, man, I could chat with you all day. I was super excited about linking up today. Again, because I knew we were in a lot of leagues. I know we had some communication, through the course of time. And I know that there's a lot to share. So maybe we get a chance to do it again soon. But I think for the sake of listeners' time, we'll call it a wrap.
Right. They've all turned us off by now. So
Fair enough.
I greatly appreciate the opportunity, and I would love to do this again.
Awesome, man. Well, let's do it again. I appreciate your time, brother. I'll see you on the interwebs here.
All right. Thanks, brother. I'll
Thanks,
talk to you
Dave.
later.
You too, man. See ya, bye.